Hello, my name is Emily Nolly. I'm in Dr. Duran's English 540 class, and this is my literature unit pitch for my final project. This unit is on identity. It's a chance for students to explore who they are, all the different ways in which they identify, and how those different identities interact with one another. It is also a chance for students to learn how people different from them may identify through reading novels, as well as conversations with their classmates. In his article Reading Democracy, Stephen Wolk points out that through literature, students will better understand their beliefs and values, which will influence their interactions in this world. As language arts teachers, it's important to guide the students in self exploration and self reflection so they can have a better understanding of who they want to be in this world and how they want to interact within it. This unit is designed for 8th grade but could be used in a 7th or 9th grade classroom, though you could take the lessons from it and adjust it to fit almost any grade level. You would have to change up the books offered as well as some of the supplemental readings. This might even need to be done in 7th or 8th grade depending on the level of readers you have in class. This unit is designed for 6 weeks. The first week will be introduction activities, a book talk for the Literature Circle offerings, and time for the students to pick their books and get into their groups. I usually leave the end of the week for some small group activities once they are in groups in order for the students to become more comfortable with one another. This can change depending on how far into the year you are. Middle school can be the first turning point for students in their independence. They begin to realize themselves outside of who their parents are, and as teachers, we expect them to start taking on responsibility for their actions and their education. With so many ways for students to get information now, as they are beginning to form who they are, it is important for them to understand their core values and begin developing who they are around those. It is also important for students to understand there is a very large world outside of the one they have known. In order for them to have authentic interactions and relationships with people in the world, they need an understanding of other identities outside of their own. We are at a time where serious change needs to be made, change that will take years. In order for the next generation to be able to carry on this work, they need to understand people unlike themselves. Some big ideas for this unit relate to what influences who we are. This would be things like the life we are born into, family, culture, class, gender, environment, and community. There are also the decisions we make which not only affect us but those around us. And lastly, the importance of understanding that other people are multidimensional just like we are, and we need to understand their identities and how they intersect with one another. Intersectionality is a concept that, in its entirety, may be a little complicated for this age, but it is a perfect time to begin the conversation about people being multidimensional, having more than one identity, and those different identities intersecting create our unique experiences. This will help them understand that just because they share one identity with someone else, that doesn't mean they fully understand their experience. With this unit comes some vocabulary the students might be familiar with but also might not be. As a teacher, you never want to assume that everyone has knowledge of the content you are providing, so I like to create word walls in the room designed around the current unit. I would be posting some initial words such as these to get it started, but I always encourage my students to post any words they come across they think needs more attention and explanation. As mentioned previously, this is designed to be done as a literature circle unit. There will be some whole group activities as well as supplemental readings we can discuss as a class, and they will have their smaller groupings to discuss their novels. This way, the students have opportunity to talk to many different people in class, having some shared information, but also being able to bring different views from their book groups. In the textbook Teaching Young Adult Literature, Chapter 9 talks about the importance of honest conversations about literature between adolescents. These conversations help the students to solidify their perspective on the world and guide their interactions with others. I find the intimate literature circle groups to provide the safe space needed to have these deep, meaningful conversations. When picking the books offered for this unit, I wanted to make sure I had some fiction as well as memoir, graphic novels, and books written in verse. This way, hopefully, every student will find something of interest to them. It was also important to me to have a diverse group of authors so students could find some connection to them as well. In Chapter 7 of the textbook Teaching Young Adult Literature, it says, literature offers us the opportunity to come to understand better the possible range of human experience, to see our lives and the world more clearly. This is exactly the reason we as language arts teachers need to make sure we have an inclusive curriculum, not only to represent the different identities in our class, but to show them a life they may have no experience with. Some of the supplemental readings we do as a whole class will be poetry. As people have been fighting for so many years to be able to live their authentic lives, I think it's important to bring in some current pieces of poetry as well as poetry written in the 20th century. For those poems, I would use some from Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, etc. And for the current poetry, I like using spoken word artists like Sophia Thacker or Tucker Bryant. Some other whole group readings we will use will be from Common Lit and Actively Learn. Common Lit has some articles on self concept as well as one on code switching, and Actively Learn has an article called The Real You is a Myth and the Danger of the Single Story. I want to do these whole class so the students have a chance to converse with peers outside of their book groups and have more viewpoints on the topic. This is a time for students to explore themselves, so these are some of the activities they will be doing in class. We start every day with quick writes or journal entries, so during this unit they will be reflecting on questions regarding identity. They will also do an identity map at the beginning of the unit as a starting off point, and throughout the unit I will have them write 6-word memoirs. I like these because they are quick to write and can also be very powerful. Students will each have a literature circle packet. Every week they will have a page to complete which needs to be done in time for their meeting. While they are reading, they will be finding some vocabulary they were unfamiliar with. They will find important quotes. They will write down any questions they have about the book or for their group members, and there's also a longer critical thinking writing piece at the end of each week. Sometimes I throw in some fun artistic options as well. The final activity for this unit will be a longer writing piece. Since they are only writing short assignments throughout, I like the students to have a longer piece for reflection. Options are always good. Hopefully, every student will find something of interest to them. The options I would offer would be writing a monologue to bring awareness to some issue raised in their book, a personal narrative, an imaginary narrative from a character's point of view, or spoken word poetry. Thank you for watching this presentation. Here's a list of the references used in planning this unit.